Last month, I attended a meeting in an abandoned warehouse that left me with unanswered questions. I was looking for inspiration and found an invitation on social media. I thought it would be a simple gathering to showcase local art. I usually love checking out odd places. So I decided to go. I've never stopped thinking about that night. The warehouse was huge. It loomed on the edge of the city, a concrete shell covered in graffiti and decay. I stepped inside, feeling both curious and a little nervous. Dust floated in the weak light. It felt like walking into another world. Once inside, I noticed something strange. The people around me didn't care about the art. They stared at an old projector in the corner. It flickered images that felt out of place. I felt uneasy, shaking my head. Maybe it was the atmosphere, with shadows lurking in the corners and a chill that made me shiver. As the meeting went on, things got weirder. I heard whispers that seemed to rise from nowhere. It was like secrets were being shared just out of my reach. I caught glimpses of movement in my peripheral vision. But when I turned my head, nothing was there. The projector showed images that shifted too fast. I couldn't keep up, and the more I stared, the more uncomfortable I felt. Then the host started speaking. They seemed to know too much. Their words were cryptic, talking about collective memory and exploration. I felt like I had walked into something more serious than an art gathering. Everyone around me seemed hypnotized, and I wondered if they were trapped here just like me. A knot twisted in my stomach. The faces of the crowd appeared distant, lost in thought or something darker. My heart started racing. Were they participants or victims of some weird experiment? I tried to shake off the creeping dread. It might just be a quirky art event, I told myself. But deep down, doubt nagged at me. After hours of bizarre incidents and strange murmurs, I finally stepped outside. The cool night air hit me like a splash of cold water. I blinked into the darkness, disoriented like I had been in a bad dream. I stood there, breathing hard, finally starting to ask questions. What were we doing there? What was the point of all this? I thought I had escaped, but the unease stayed lodged in my mind. The feeling of being watched crept back. The echoes of their whispers clung to me. I turned to look behind me, but the street was empty. I shook my head, trying to clear the thoughts. Then I heard a voice call out to me. Jake? My heart stopped. I spun around. Nobody was there. The warehouse loomed behind me like a dark silhouette, and the unanswered questions lingered, pulsing in the silence. As I stood outside the warehouse, my heart raced, the chill of the night creeping deeper into my bones. I glanced around again, hoping to catch a glimpse of whoever had called my name, but the street remained empty. Was I really hearing things? I started walking home, but the unease settled heavier in my chest. The city felt different, hushed, almost too quiet. My eyes darted to every shadow, convinced someone might be lurking just out of sight. I turned a corner, hoping the familiar streetlights would offer some comfort, but they only highlighted the emptiness around me. I wanted to forget about the meeting, to shake off the whispers and the flickering images, but I couldn't. The memory of those faces, entranced and distant, gnawed at me. Why hadn't I paid more attention? What had they been watching? I needed answers. As soon as I got home, I pulled out my laptop and began searching for any mention of the event. I couldn't find much, just a few scattered posts about local happenings, and the vague invitation that had drawn me in. I felt a knot tightening in my stomach. Frustrated, I decided to dig deeper. I began scrolling through social media groups focused on underground art scenes, looking for anything that resembled the night I had just experienced. Hours passed as I read through posts, and with each scroll, my unease was replaced by something more pressing, a sense of urgency. That's when I saw it. A photo posted by someone I didn't recognize. It showed the inside of the warehouse, the old projector, the same flickering light. But there was something different. In the background of the image, almost hidden in shadow, a figure stood. My breath caught in my throat. The person was watching the projector, just like the others. I zoomed in closer, and my heart raced again. Then everything went dark. My laptop screen blinked, and suddenly the power flickered. I rushed to the window, throwing aside the curtain. The street was dark too, no lights flickering beyond my glass. Panic surged through me. I had a feeling that I wasn't alone anymore. Then, I felt a presence behind me. I turned quickly but found myself facing a deep shadow in the corner of my living room. It pulsed, a dark shape in the dim light of my laptop. "Jake," a voice whispered from the shadow, chilling me to the core. I froze, my pulse quickening. I had wanted answers, but I hadn't wanted this. "Who are you?" I demanded, forcing my voice to stay steady. The shadow shifted, and as it seemed to step closer, I realized that I had opened a door I should never have touched. My heart raced as I tried to decide my next move. There was no turning back now. Chapter 2. The only guest. I squinted into the darkness, willing my mind to make sense of the figure in front of me. The voice came again, softer this time, almost soothing. "I've been waiting for you, Jake." I took a step back, my heart pounding harder. "Why? What do you want from me?" The shadow shifted again, and I thought I saw a glimmer of light reflecting off of something. "You were there," it said. "You saw them." I shook my head, trying to process its words. "Saw who? What are you talking about?" The presence breathed easier, almost like it was excited. "The others. You're part of this now. You can't turn back." I felt a wave of anger surge through me. I didn't want to be part of anything. "I don't even know what this is. Just stay away from me." The shadow hesitated, and for a moment, I thought I could escape. But then it enveloped the room, filling every corner with its weight. "You can't ignore it, Jake. You saw what they were watching. You need to understand." Something within me wanted to shriek or run, but I resisted. I needed answers, after all. "Fine," I said, forcing the words out. "Tell me what I saw." A low chuckle escaped from the silhouette. "You will learn, but first, you must understand that curiosity has consequences." Fear trickled down my spine. Curiosity had already led me here, to confront something that felt beyond understanding. My mind raced back to the faces in the warehouse, entranced by that flickering light. Why hadn't they reacted when I walked in? What were they watching? The shadow grew still, then suddenly the light flickered back on in my apartment. Only the darkness remained at bay. But the presence didn't vanish. Instead, it leaned closer. The collective consciousness. Thoughts shared in silence. I struggled to comprehend. What does that even mean? It means you are not alone in your search. Others are looking for the truth too. But not all are safe. Choose wisely who you trust. A cold dread washed over me, and for the first time, I felt the weight of my choices. Who can I trust? It hesitated before it answered. The one who called your name. The invitation to the meeting was meant for you. Seek them out. Just like that, the shadow lifted, leaving me trembling. I was alone again, the room quiet but heavy with tension. I didn't understand everything it had said, but I knew one thing: I had to find whoever had called my name. And as I glanced at my laptop, I realized that the power wasn't just flickering. It was gone. I picked up my phone, my hands unsteady as I searched for signal. I needed to find the person behind that whispered invitation, but deep down, I feared what I might uncover. Then, out of the silence, my phone buzzed to life. A new message had arrived from an unknown number. "I know you're looking for answers. Meet me at the warehouse tonight. Don't be late." My heart dropped. It was happening again. I hesitated, but the thrill of the unknown called to me, and I knew I had no choice. I had to act, even if it put me in danger. So I grabbed my jacket, bracing myself for what awaited me. The shadows of the past called, and this time, I was going to answer. Chapter 3. Unearthing Secrets. The streets felt empty as I stepped out of my apartment, the night air biting against my skin. Each step toward the warehouse sent jolts of uncertainty through me. I couldn't shake off an impending sense of dread. My phone buzzed again in my pocket, making my heart race. It was another message from the unknown number: "Don't be late. They'll be watching." I quickened my pace, a mix of adrenaline and fear driving me. I passed familiar blocks, but they all felt strange in the dark. Memories of the warehouse surfaced, faces lost in a trance, the flickering light, the whispering shadows. What had I stumbled into? I arrived at the warehouse, its looming structure shadowed under the moonlight. The heavy door creaked as I pushed it open, revealing an expanse where the hum of silence echoed. I hesitated but remembered the shadow's words. The one who called your name. Inside, I spotted the flickering light again, illuminating a small group huddled together in the far corner. My heart raced. They looked like the same people from before. What were they doing? I remained hidden at the entrance, debating whether to stay or leave. But curiosity pinned me in place. One of the figures turned slightly, and I caught a glimpse of their face. It was the woman I had seen before. The way her eyes reflected the light made it look as if she could see me even from afar. She seemed to sense my presence, and whispered something to the others. "You're here," she finally called out, her voice breaking the silence. "We've been waiting for you, Jake." A chill ran down my spine. "Me?" I stepped forward, my uncertainty showing. "Why me?" She gestured for me to come closer. "You've seen things you shouldn't have. There's more at play than you realize." The group shifted, creating a path for me to join them. As I stepped forward, I noticed the light was attached to an old projector. Images were flickering on the wall, but they were different faces and places I didn't recognize. "What is this?" I asked, my voice shaky. "Visions," she replied. "Shared thoughts of those who came before us. And you're part of it now." I felt my stomach clench. "Part of what?" Before she could answer, the door slammed shut behind me. It echoed through the vast space, and for a moment, I panicked. The group froze, eyes darting to the entrance, and then back to me. The atmosphere thickened with tension. "We need to leave, now!" someone shouted, glancing toward the darkened corners of the warehouse. I turned, scanning the room just as the air shifted. Shadows crept closer, swirling at the periphery of the light. It was as if the darkness was alive, waiting for something or someone. "What is happening?" I demanded, feeling my pulse quicken. "They know you're here," the woman said urgently. "We have to hurry." Suddenly, the projector flickered erratically, and I caught another glimpse of something that made my blood run cold. My own face, staring back at me from the wall. I hadn't seen myself in that moment, but the fear in those eyes was unmistakable. I didn't understand, but I knew one thing: it was too late to turn back now. Then the lights went out completely. Chapter 4: Shadows of the Unknown. The darkness enveloped us, a suffocating blanket that extinguished the flickering light. Heart pounding, I blinked into the void, trying to adjust. Panic gnawed at me, and I could hear whispered voices, frantic and low. "Stay close," the woman's voice cut through the darkness, urgent and commanding. I felt her hand grasp mine, pulling me forward. "We need to move." I stumbled behind her, following the sound of shuffling feet. My eyes strained against the blackness as I tried to make sense of our surroundings. I could hear the low hum of the projector, flickering haltingly. Dim shapes flitted past me, and the air felt charged. "Where are we going?" I whispered, fear lingering in my throat. "Out," she said tersely, her grip tightening. "They're coming for you." As she led me through the maze of silence, I realized I wasn't the only one afraid. The people around us shuffled nervously, creating an unsteady rhythm of worry. I felt a growing sense of dread. Who were they? What did they know? Ahead, a sliver of light emerged, illuminating a side door. That was our way out, but before we could reach it, a loud crash echoed from behind us, metal hitting concrete. My heart raced, each beat like a drum of warning. "Run!" someone shouted. We broke into a full sprint, the sudden sounds behind us growing louder. I risked a glance back and froze. Shadows poured from the corners of the warehouse, dark figures weaving through the dimness like smoke. They were coming for us. I sprinted with my heart thundering in my chest, fueled by adrenaline and fear. The exit loomed closer, yet the shadows moved faster, their shapes twisting in unnatural ways. "Hurry!" the woman called out. We reached the door, and she pushed it open with a shattering force. Light spilled into the space, blinding me for a moment. I shielded my eyes and dashed through, skidding to a stop on the gravel outside. "Keep moving," she urged, but I could see panic etched on her face. "We have to get to the others." "Others?" I gasped, still trying to catch my breath. She nodded, her expression tense. "People like us who know the truth. The only way to stop this is to find them." Before I could respond, a figure burst through the door behind us. A tall man, his face obscured by shadows, stepped into the light, eyes glinting with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. "Jake," he called, his voice deep and resonant. "You don't know what you're getting into." The woman pulled me back. "We don't have time. Let us go." I hesitated, torn between the urgency of the moment and the man's warning. "Wait. Who are you?" He took a step closer, but his expression was shrouded in confusion. "I'm trying to help. They're playing with forces you can't understand." But his words were swallowed by another jarring crash, the sound of the door slamming shut again, reverberating through the night. My instincts screamed at me to flee, the chill of fear pressing against my spine. Then, as if in response to my uncertainty, the darkness shifted once more, a tumultuous force rolling toward us, hungry and relentless. "We have to go!" The woman pulled me away just as I caught the first glimpse of what lurked in the shadows. When I saw its shapes moving fast, too many to count, and all focused on us. Chapter 5. The hunt begins. We sprinted across the gravel, the distant street lights flickering like stars in a dark sky. The woman pulled me along, her grip unyielding as we dashed toward the treeline that bordered the edge of the warehouse property. Shadows danced behind us, persistent and insatiable. "Who was that man?" I gasped, trying to keep pace. "What did he mean, forces?" "We don't have time," she snapped, urgency filling her voice. "We need to find the others before they catch us." The trees loomed ahead, creating a barrier of dark shapes just waiting to envelop us. The sound of our footsteps seemed deafening, but I could feel a low thrum in the air, a pulse that hinted at approaching danger. Each beat echoed louder as we reached the first tree, and I pressed my back against its rough bark, gasping for breath. "Who are these others?" I asked, catching my second wind. My heart still raced, and fear twisted in my gut, but I needed to know. "Survivors, allies," she said, glancing over her shoulder. "People who know what's at stake. They will help us fight back." "Fight back against what?" I almost shouted, frustration bubbling up. "No one has told me anything. What's happening?" As if responding to my outbursts, a rustling sound came from the bushes nearby, sharp and sudden. I barely had time to react before an animal-like growl split the air, sending a chill down my spine. "Stay quiet," she whispered, holding her fingers to her lips. I nodded, trying to stay still. The adrenaline coursing through me blocked any rational thought. The noise from the foliage got louder, and shapes began to emerge, figures that were low to the ground with elongated limbs. They slinked eerily through the shadows, blending into the darkness like predators on the hunt. My breath caught in my throat as I felt a chilling realization settle upon me. They were hunting us. "Now!" she hissed, darting deeper into the trees. I followed her instantly, heart racing anew as those dark figures moved closer. Branches whipped at my face as we maneuvered through the thick brush. I could hear shouts in the distance. Voices were calling, but I couldn't tell if they were friends or foes. "This way," she urged, leading me toward a small clearing up ahead. Rounding a massive trunk, we stumbled into the clearing, and I froze. It was filled with people, men and women huddled together, their faces tense. All eyes turned towards us, moving with a mix of curiosity and concern. "There they are!" one man shouted, pointing at us. The tense energy shifted into a frenzy of movement as others began to arm themselves with makeshift weapons, sticks, pipes, anything they could grab. "Wait!" the woman shouted, stepping between me and the newcomers. "We come in peace. We're being hunted." A moment passed, heavy and loaded. I looked around in desperation. Their expressions were a mixture of fear and adrenaline. Were they ready to fight or just as scared as I was? "Listen," one woman said cautiously, stepping forward with her hands raised. "We know about the shadows. We can help. But you have to trust us." Just as I felt a glimmer of hope, I heard the low growls again, closer this time. The shadows seeped into the clearing, stalking us with insatiable hunger. In that moment, I realized we were not just running from something, we were about to confront a battle that was just beginning. A confrontation awaited, and our survival depended not only on meeting the others but on understanding the unseen enemy that had been following us all along. "Prepare yourselves," the woman called out, her voice strong amid the fear. "They're here." And just like that, everything erupted into chaos. Chapter 6. The shadows strike the clearing, ignited in chaos. People scrambled to grab weapons, their faces painted with determination and fear. I felt the woman beside me tense, her eyes darting to the dark edges of the trees. The growls grew louder, menacing and hungry. "Form a line!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the panic. The group responded instinctively, folding into two rough lines that faced the tree line, brandishing their makeshift weapons like shields. I nodded, trying to fit in, but my heart raced with every beat. I tried to catch my breath, focusing on the woman. "What do we do?" I asked urgently. "Just follow my lead. When they come, we fight. We protect each other," she replied, her tone firm even as her hands shook slightly. I glanced at the shadows creeping forward. They were darker than night, stretching and warping like smoke. Fear trickled down my spine, but I didn't have time to dwell on it. The growls merged into a cacophony of snarls, echoing around us. Suddenly, something leaped from the shadows, a dark shape, gliding with an unnatural speed. It hit the ground and took form, a creature with gaunt limbs and glowing eyes, teeth bared in a snarl. Gasps filled the air, and the line wavered. "Stand your ground," the woman commanded, brandishing a sturdy branch. In that moment, I noticed others in the clearing moving to the edges, trying to flank whatever the creature was. The newcomer I met earlier, a tall man with a scar across his brow, stood beside me, weapon raised. "They want to just come at us," he warned. They tried to circle around. "Keep your eyes open." Before I could respond, more shapes emerged. They came from every direction, low to the ground with limbs that seemed too long, too thin. The group tensed, and I felt panic claw at my throat. Then the first shadow lunged at one of the defenders, its jagged teeth sinking into the soft flesh of a man's shoulder. He screamed, falling backward as chaos erupted. The defenders fought back, swinging sticks and pipes wildly. I froze, watching horror unfold before me. "What do we do?" I whispered to the woman. "Fight," she shouted, but I simply stood there, paralyzed. The first creature had fallen, but others were moving in closer, drawn by the scent of blood. I had seen horror movies, but nothing prepared me for this. "Get in!" the tall man barked, pulling me close. "We can't let them surround us." Stumbling forward, I grabbed a short stick from the ground. It felt useless but somehow steadied my nerves. I was just about to join the fray when I caught a glimpse of something in the dark, two piercing eyes watching us, larger than any of the creatures attacking. "Get down!" I yelped, but it was too late. The larger shadow charged, knocking one of our fighters aside like they were nothing more than a twig. It snarled, the sound reverberating through the clearing like thunder. Real fear squeezed my chest. I couldn't even scream. "Fight back!" the woman yelled, but I could barely move. That's when I saw it, a flash of silver glinting in the moonlight, a weapon discarded in the fray. With newfound desperation, I lunged toward it, but as I bent down, I felt the ground beneath me shift. Something was coming up from below. The man beside me gasped, "Look out!" Then everything went dark. Chapter 7. The abyss. The darkness swallowed me whole, and I felt myself falling. Panic seized my heart. The ground had split beneath me, and I braced for impact, expecting the worst. But instead of hitting the ground, I found myself suspended, flailing in the thick blackness. "Get up!" a voice called. It sounded far away but familiar. I blinked. The darkness began to lift, and I saw flashes of movement around me. Shadows danced on the edge of my vision, their menacing shapes weaving in and out like predators circling their prey. "Stand up," the voice urged again. It was the woman who had been leading the charge. I focused on her, deep breaths bringing back clarity. I pushed against the ground, and suddenly, solid earth met my palm. I scrambled to my feet. "Watch out," the tall man warned, swinging his weapon at a nearby shadow. I turned just in time to see another creature lunging toward him, its jaws snapping inches away from his face. I gripped the stick tightly, feeling a surge of adrenaline. Fear transformed into a fierce resolve. I couldn't just stand there and watch anymore. I charged toward the nearest shadow, swinging the stick with all my strength. The impact sent it staggering back. "Don't just stand there," I shouted at the others. "Help him!" The woman was battling two of the thin creatures, her branch cracking against one as she moved fluidly, dodging its bites. I noticed more fighters joining her, slowly reclaiming ground. The clearing was chaotic, filled with shouts and growls, but I felt a glimmer of hope. "Keep pushing," the scarred man yelled. "Don't let them regroup." As we fought back, I sensed something change in the atmosphere. The shadows seemed to be thinning out, retreating momentarily. I caught a glimpse of the woman meeting my eyes. She was breathing heavily, but her expression was fierce. "We can do this," she encouraged. Just then, a loud thud echoed through the clearing. I turned to see the larger shadow had returned, its eyes glowing with a ferocity that sent cold shivers down my spine. It was back, and this time, it looked even angrier. "Everyone, regroup," the woman yelled. "We need to." An unnatural roar interrupted her. The ground trembled beneath us, and from the shadows, even more creatures emerged, all drawn toward their leader. My heart sank. There were too many. "Fall back," the scarred man shouted. "We can't fight them all like this." But as we began to retreat, I noticed something glinting red in the moonlight, a small object buried in the damp earth near the center of the clearing. It was far too bright in the midst of the chaos, almost like a beacon. I hesitated. "Wait," I said, pointing to it. "What is that?" The woman glanced at it. "I don't know. But we might not get another chance." "We stick together," and another growl interrupted her. The large shadow charged straight for us like a thunderous storm, and time seemed to freeze. My gut twisted in a mix of dread and determination. "We need to grab it!" I exclaimed, knowing it could be our only hope. "Go!" the woman urged. I dashed toward the glowing object as my heart raced. I could feel the shadows closing in behind me, the shadows of death. I had no idea what it was, but I knew I had to reach it. Then everything shifted once more. The ground shook, and I lost my footing. My hands slipped on the cold earth, and I fell hard. I heard someone scream, but the noise mixed with the growls of the shadows. Then, something grabbed my ankle. "Help!" I cried out, kicking wildly as the darkness clung closer. I twisted around, the glint of the red object just inches away. The shadows were closing in, squeezing their horrific grips tighter. And then, just as quickly as it began, silence filled the air. Chapter 8. The silence. I lay there, breathless. The grip on my ankle loosened, but the shadows still loomed above. I blinked, half expecting them to pounce again, but nothing came. Just the sound of my own ragged breaths echoed through the clearing. I slowly pulled myself up, scanning the scene around me. The woman and the tall man were locked in a fierce battle, but the frantic growls of the shadows had diminished. I spotted the scarred man shouting orders, trying to keep everyone organized. But where was the large shadow? It had vanished. I looked back down at the red object, now lying in the dirt. It glimmered like a ruby, its light pulsing softly. With a mix of fear and urgency, I crawled closer to it. Whatever it was, it felt important. "Don't! Stay back!" a voice suddenly pierced the silence. I jerked my head up to see the woman approaching cautiously, her weapon still in hand. "That thing might be cursed," she warned. "What if it can help us?" I argued, my curiosity getting the better of me. Before she could respond, another growl echoed louder than before, breaking the stillness. My heart raced as I cast a glance over my shoulder. The shadows weren't gone, they had regrouped, and this time, they were angrier, their eyes glowing ominously. "Grab it!" the woman shouted, but I could see the apprehension in her eyes. "And get ready to run!" With a surge of adrenaline, I lunged for the object. My fingers wrapped around it, and an instant warmth flooded through me. I stood up, clutching it close, and felt a strange wave of clarity wash over me. The shadows paused, almost as if they were sensing a shift in the air. "Now!" the scarred man yelled. "We need to fall back." But before we could move, a blinding flash erupted from the object in my hands. The shadows recoiled, hissing as the light spilled out like a barrier. I glanced at the woman, and her eyes widened in disbelief. "What just happened?" she whispered. "I don't know, but it feels powerful," I replied, glancing around. The light was pushing back the darkness, creating a safe zone around us. The shadows howled in protest, swirling at the edges of the light. I tightened my grip on the object, feeling its warmth pulsing alongside my heartbeat. "Can you control it?" the woman asked urgently. "I don't know how," I admitted. "But we've got to use it. That's it. Focus on pushing back the shadows," she encouraged, and I took a deep breath, channeling every ounce of fear and resolve into the light. As I did, the flash grew brighter, illuminating the entire clearing. To my surprise, the shadows began to shrink back, their forms twisting and snarling in the glow. "Keep going. Don't stop," she urged as I sensed the energy draining from my body. The light moved in waves, radiating out from us. Just when it seemed the shadows were finally breaking, a thunderous roar erupted behind me. I turned just in time to see the large shadow, more monstrous than before, charging through the retreating darkness. "It's coming for us!" the tall man shouted, eyes wide in terror. Panic surged in my chest. This moment wasn't a victory, it was just the beginning of something much worse. The darkness writhed and twisted around the edges of our light, and I realized this was just a temporary reprieve. "Run!" I shouted, the urge to flee overpowering. But as I looked back at the object in my hands, I understood it was now or never. I took a step back, knowing I had to shoulder the responsibility. I would not let my fear dominate me. With one last look at the charging shadow, I raised the red object high, ready for whatever came next. "We fight!" I yelled, feeling the sudden roar of chaos return. Chapter 9. The reckoning light surged from the object in my hands, radiating out in blinding waves that sliced through shadows, illuminating the clearing like the dawn breaking through night. The monstrous shadow hesitated, its eyes narrowing as the light evoked an instinctive retreat from its darkness. A din of growls and howls rose from the shadows, but their urgency began to wane as revelation dawned that they faced a force far greater than themselves. "Push it back!" the woman shouted, her voice a rallying cry against the encroaching darkness. I breathed deeply, feeling the rush of heat coursing through my veins. The power of the object pulsed rhythmically, an echo of my heartbeat, urging me to channel my fear into focused intent. I closed my eyes for a moment, centering my mind on the flickering shadows in front of me. With a firm resolve, I thrust my arms forward, directing the light toward the raging mass. It felt like a tether mile binding the light to push back the malevolent figures creeping forward. "I can feel it. Keep pushing," I urged to the others, pouring everything I had into this luminous force. Gradually, the shadows began to recede, burning against the light as they twisted and writhed in frustration. Amid the chaos, the tall man and the woman rallied the others to keep their formation tight. The group as solidarity strengthened my focus, pouring their collective will into me as well. Then suddenly, just as it seemed we could gain the upper hand, the larger shadow charged again, barreling through the darkness as if it could not be deterred. I could see jagged teeth glinting in the light, razor-sharp and menacing, and a shockwave of fear shot through me. "Don't let it break through," came the voice of the scarred man, pushing those behind him forward to add their strength to the front line. It was all too apparent. We could not afford to falter. I gritted my teeth and amplified the light, pouring in everything I had left. Gasps of awe escaped the group as the beam intensified, illuminating the features of those around me, every face reflecting a mix of hope and fear. The beast lunged forward. Time slowed, the tremors of its heavy footfalls drummed in my ears as its maw opened wide, ready to crush all that dared to stand. But I couldn't think of failure. I had come too far. With a final push, I cried out, "Stay strong!" And as my voice steadied, the light erupted from the object, a blinding shield wrapped around us, pulsating outward like a wave. The sheer brilliance met the shadow head-on. For a moment, the two forces collided, light and dark wrestling in a frenzied dance that filled the air with crackling energy. The creature recoiled, howling in rage as the light swept through it, peeling back layers of darkness as if revealing a long-buried truth. Its screams echoed, a cacophony that ricocheted through the clearing. The shadows trembled, more restless now, their brethren momentarily stunned and weakening against the light. And just as quickly, in a unified motion, they began to dissipate. They were stripped of their form, fading away into the ether with anguished wails. The reaction from the shadows sparked courage within our group. But even as we pushed back against the tide, I sensed something unsettling stirring deep within my gut. This wasn't merely an end. It felt more like a prelude. As the blinding light consumed the space before me, I couldn't shake the feeling that those shadows would return just as they had come. I had merely delayed something more significant. Once the space began to clear, the air felt calmer. As the last remnants of shadows evaporated, the crowd turned, faces lit by awe and disbelief. By some miracle, we had survived. But I also saw doubt lurking in their eyes. They too felt at the knowledge that a more profound darkness still lingered just beyond our reach. "What now?" I whispered, looking at the woman who had led me here, her expression now a mixture of gratitude and contemplation. "We regroup. There's more to uncover," she said, her voice steadier than ever. "This isn't over, not by a long shot. We need to find out where they came from and who sent them." I nodded. The shadows may have receded, but I understood that something within the depths of darkness had already begun to awaken. The night still held its secrets, and my need for answers had only just begun. As we gathered together, exchanging exchanges of relief and uncertainty, I questioned what lay ahead. How deep did this network of shadows run? What horrors were entwined with our reality? I would find the truth, but I knew now that it would come with a price. And so, with a shiver of anticipation, I stepped forward into the unknown. The fight was far from over. The shadows would return. But we would stand ready. Maybe the flickering light would guide us through. Only time would tell.